Hello, and today I'm gonna talk about not computer stuff, but uh, I passed an area where it used to be occupied by a movement called Occupy Wall Street, and I reflect on that. And since then, we've seen more movement. Of course, Occupy Wall Street, if you old enough to remember, that was a movement started spontaneously. Eventually, the Democrats and the left they took over that movement, which destroyed it. But it came out of the recession in 2007, and sadly our representative inaction to help their own people. But you know, but we went to two wars after since then, so let me go for and talk about my. Okay, now we also I have here what is it? America First movement. This is like the movement that started MAGA or behind MAGA, and it also started spontaneously, and it still have, especially still have. They are not following in line completely behind the Republicans, but it is nevertheless became similar to the Tea Party. You know, okay, I searched Tea Party and I got like a Tea Party. You know, but and of course, I wanna also talk about Black Lives Matter. It was more racial, but it stemmed from the same thing. All these movements since. The recession we had, all of them stem from the same thing. Black Lives Matters happened because due to the police violence and the uh, African American community feeling marginalized, which is a big subject, but but also stem from they felt abandoned, like they Obama came and they and went, and their hopes and dreams, and the hopes of dreams of many of who voted for Obama, who most of them were white, it never really materialized. So then, you know, now we are in the age of MAGA, and it seems to be the same story again and again, you know. Um, and why those movements fail. And I am not, I'm a conservative in this manner. I am not for anarchy, and that is does not help anyone who live here. But those movements happen for a reason, and what the reason for those movements is very simple. That um, those movement, you know, um, those movement really based on the fact that our government, the richest government, by the way, in the history of humanity, not just currently, it truly have abandoned the public. Uh, I joke with myself. Uh, Recently, I believe last weekend, I was feeling a little bit better, and I went for a bike ride, and there is like potholes after potholes everywhere you go, and I thought to myself, geez, do I need like a mountain bike now just to bike to the coffee shop, if, for 1 mile away from where I live? But this is what it is. So I'm gonna say this is just my thoughts. I'm not an expert. I'm just like any person. I'm an average guy who worked all his life. The problem here is that we have a hijacking of the operatives. So like a movement will start, and of course this is always maybe observation. Probably it's also true in many other places, many other countries, because those movements rarely you know change, But if we talk about it, maybe if somebody see this video, hear it, maybe they will learn something and they will be in a position to the way they can, you know, implement change. Uh, so we have the hijacking of those movements. So like there will be like one guy in the movement, and all of a sudden that or girl, and all of a sudden that person will get like uh, bribed and maybe get a big job out of it, and then big politician will come in and will use that anger to get elected, only to go around and stab the same people who elected him or her, you know, or leave them behind. And we see that again and again for the last, I don't know, since I was 20 years old. I remember George W. Bush came. Clinton was there, but like George, the first run, it was, he thought, okay, maybe, you know, but it's more so when in the time of Obama and so forth, it got really amplified, because the needs of our country were obvious. Like we are abandoning many people here, and who's doing better 20 years ago is not in a position in a better position now, you know, except the few, of course. So this is one observation I was thinking about it. And I'm gonna talk about no promotion within those movement for leadership. And I remember during that time in Occupy Wall Street, I was in college at the time, to going back to college. I was like an old, I thought I was an older student in my late 20s. And I had a very dear friend of mine. She was involved, and I remember she asked me to go to a meeting, and I went, and they have like one freaking guy who is like definitely like appointed by somebody, and like trying to push people to do destructive stuff and all this. And I thought to myself, those people, they didn't come here for this. And the goal is to uh, make that movement, label it as a fringe and whatever, you know. So, and it eventually it did fail. So, and this is what it is that movement should have uh, like, I'm not saying like they should hold election within themselves, but they should promote the leaderships. And one of the things that they should have is they should have uh, parameters to hold the leadership of the movement, meaning the whoever they gonna elect for them, they should accept to be scrutinized, you know, whether financially, like to see, they have to agree, they have to not, you know, be transparent about how much their income was or whatever, because that's one way to know if somebody is compromised. And also what they stand for. The movement should whittle down, any movement, any political movement should whittle down its goals to solid goals. Will everybody nevertheless collate under, you know? And you know, and this is very hard to say. I'm not saying this is easy, but this is why perhaps those movements fail, you know. And this will take me to my second point, is no defining the main goal of the movement. And it's true, those movements are street movements, they are not spontaneous, but we are all humans, we are able to do something. Those movements should organize and create like some kind of charter or some kind of goal. It doesn't have to be constitution. It just have to be a small goal, so every member of that movement or everyone who wanna, identify with that movement, know what the movement stand for. For example, America First, MAGA, certain elements are very, very attractive because we need to invest in our country. We need to invest in not being involved in wars, being a sovereign nation, not being pulled by um, certain countries, you know, to do wars and their biddings, or certain individuals, oppose the neocons. But of course but since it doesn't have that chart under it, they might get a guy with a red hat that shout very loud, and that guy is like a neocon, and that is a sign that this movement gonna also collapse, you know and it will lose its meaning. That how it gonna collapse. So, and hopefully it will so in many ways all those movements are the same. We have a legitimate issue, otherwise those movements won't be popping, you know whether you are left, right, center. We should have legitimate issue. And I think character, the leaders and character of leaders not taking that in consideration is always fatal. Going back to this point here, you know okay, I'm gonna say also the third thing that seem to define all those movements from an observer: no encouraging to opposition within. And I'm not saying that they should have clear, you know a movement should have a clear view of what they stand for, but at the same time they should allow, not allow their own members to have their own mind, not to castigate them. And 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 what is also I think, if we will have a great movement should allow opposition, meaning acceptable opponents. For example, if you are mega, or if you are, you should say, okay, I will accept to work with leftists who are up to the same things, meaning up to you know investing in our country, in you know up to stand for things that you stand for, because you can have different philosophy, but the idea, instead of like not show, like any movement that show, like, let's say Occupy Wall Street or the BLM or whatever, that doesn't want to even see any opposition as dangerous, or of course MAGA and the Tea Party see any opposition as dangerous. That is a bad view. That's a very childish view, but that is my thought on it. The idea here is that we as people are in need. We are in need of a change. And I'm gonna leave it with this. Any empire, if you look in history, and I'm not a historian, I'm like a chemist by trade, but any 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 empire that lasted for so long, it lasted for that because it had many different, we can call them dynasties, or many different systems that came as one system get corrupted. And this is a human nature thing. A system will start like your car and get corrupted and get all those people in who are supposedly leading us, not all, many of them, or maybe the majority of them for the sure, because they have their will, are completely should not be in that position. We have, we had, like, I'm gonna give two names, one left, one right. I remember the last election, uh, the that Green Party candidate, and I'm not foofy guy, so but she was a decent person, Dr. Jill Stein. She was clean. She was not corrupt. She was decent. Massey, the senator, the current senator, he's on the right. He is seemed to be clean. He seemed to be, and I'm sure they're gonna get rid of him, but his party meaning. But those are the people we need. We don't have to be. We can be different, and at the same time be good people and be a solution. You know, So like, I will vote for either of those two people, and not because I'm die hard conservative or die hard leftist, but because I believe that, oh, those people are clean. They're not corrupt. They gonna do the best as they could to do their job as politicians, and this is the view that we should all do. That is just a thought, and I want to share it. Have a good day.